I don't even know where to start. This has been, it feels like the longest race day weekend we've had in a very long time. Well, it is the longest race day weekend we've had in a very long time. This has just been the longest weekend we've had in a very long time. My goodness, Brazil, I love you, but what was today? What was this weekend? I don't even. Wow. Hello everyone, my name's Fatima and welcome back to the Race Edit. And if you're new here, welcome to the Race Edit and welcome to a new video. I was holding off on recording this video because I was like, I want to know what the final classification of the race is, because right now we have a race result, but they're still investigating Norris, Noda, George Russell, who else, and Liam Lawson for the formation lap. They're still investigating Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, Mercedes in general, for their tire temperature scandal. And I was like, do I want to record this video when we have all of this happening? But I have to talk about it. I've been holding it in for like 3-4 hours now. I have to talk about it because what even was this race weekend? I want to start from the bottom up, but I'm just like, is that even right? This today in general, qualifying was at like 5 a.m. I did not wake up for qualifying. I'm so sorry. It just wasn't happening. Your girl works a 9 to 5. I gotta wake up early on the weekdays. I can't be waking up early on the weekends as well like that. I needed some sleep, right? Then we had the Senna tribute where Lewis was racing Senna's 1990 car, McLaren, which was just amazing to witness and the best thing for me this weekend, if I'm gonna be honest. Then we had the driver's parade. Then we had the race. This race went on from 10:30 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. It just was the never-ending race. And every single time something happened, it just got extended more. Like, yesterday was already a mess. Saturday was already a mess with qualifying getting delayed and delayed and delayed. There's just so much that happened, and I can't even begin to describe where I want to start. I'm not going to lie. First and foremost, it was a rough weekend for Nico Hulkenberg. It was a pretty rough weekend for Haas in general, but Hulk, I just felt like he just wasn't able to get it right. There was just always something that was happening, and he just had a rough weekend, and he was disqualified from the race after he spun out. I think it was lap 37. He spun out, and then he did get assistance from the marshals back on track, and black flags came out, and they said, no mas. They said, actually, Nico, you're disqualified. So that left him P20 point blank. Not a good weekend, not a fun weekend for him. All right, then we go on to Lance Stroll. I don't even, he's so Quebec. Does that make sense? When he was doing his post-race interview talking about what happened, I was just like, I can't with you, Lance. Honestly, no matter who they bring in, Adrian Newey, be here. They have the best car in the world. I'm so sorry. They will not be a championship contending team if they still have that man driving for Aston Martin. I'm standing 10 toes down on that. Unless they get a freaking generational driver like Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, unless they get a generational driver for that team, they're not winning a championship title. As much as they can rely on Alonso, from what we saw today, it ain't easy. It ain't easy. And with Stroll in that car, apparently he's good in wet conditions. That's what they said. That's what they said, and lo and behold, we didn't even get through the formation lap, and he crashed out. How does that make sense? It's not even that he crashed. It's not even that he spun. It's that he drove into the gravel. Which, does that make sense, Lance Stroll? You beached yourself, literally. Like, does that make sense to drive into? I guess, you know what, turn it down. I'm trying to be nice. He was just trying to find the fastest way back onto the grid. Sure, absolutely. But come on now, don't do that. And then we have. That's the funniest thing though, because of course Nico was disqualified. Lance Stroll spun out, and he still ended up behind Alexander Albon, who didn't even start the race. Alex didn't even do the race, and some way, somehow, Lance Stroll still ended up behind him. I try and root for him because I try and show support, you know, but sometimes he just makes it really, really hard, and this is one of those times. He's making it really, really hard, and I think I'm cutting my ties with you, Lance. I'm sorry. Then we go on to Alexander Albon. He did not complete the race. He had that terrible crash in Q3. Yes, I did go and rewatch it. He had the terrible crash in Q3, and the mechanics, those poor Williams mechanics. First and foremost, so happy that Alexander Albon is okay, because when I looked at that crash, my jaw dropped. It was absolutely frightening, and the fact that, yeah, the mechanics worked hard. They worked hard, that is for sure. And then, of course, our sweet Franco, he also crashed. What was it, lap? He caused the red car that changed the game. Let's be real. To be fair, lap 28 in general changed the game. The red car, the red flag. It's been a long day. It was already over for Lando and George, respectfully. But Franco's crash did cause the red flag, which of course let everyone else have a free pit stop who didn't already pit before the red flag. Yeah, it's been a rough weekend for Williams. It's been a rough year for Williams. And Franco just had a really bad weekend, if we're going to be honest. Like, he's been going through it this weekend. He's over here, we root for Franco, we do. It sucks that the closest thing to a home race he has obviously ended not in the way that he would have hoped for, but the track was treacherous. It was his first wet race in a Formula One car, and a wet race it was. Like, they were all going through it. Rookie to old head, goodness gracious, everyone was going through it. And poor Franco, of course. Williams, double DNF. It sucks. They've had a great run. I think they've had a pretty good run, should I say, since they signed on Franco. He's been really consistent, and this was just one of those weekends where it just wasn't a weekend for that team. It just was not. Then you have Carlos Sainz. In his defense, he did question the car. What did he say exactly? Or the tires. He did question the tires. He said, Ricky, these are not new inters. Which inter is this? Hello? That had me gagging. I was laughing so hard because for real though. But Carlos Sainz, listen, yeah, he was on top last week, crashed out this week. That is just the story of Carlos Sainz. So whenever these conversation topics about Ferrari fired the wrong driver come up, I'm like, you guys speak too soon. There's been a lot of speaking too soon in the past few weeks, so I'm like, you guys speak too soon. But another DNF, another driver out of the race, another crash. Just not a fun time. Did he not crash in qualifying too? Am I mistaken? I'm pretty sure he crashed in qualifying too. So do with that what you will. Also, speak of Lance Stroll, as we know, also crashed out in qualifying as well. It's just been a mess. I just feel like that was the universe saying some of these drivers do not need to be racing today because you crashed. And yeah, Brazil, you never fail to amaze me, right? Okay, let's talk about people who did finish the race. Unfortunately for Zhou Guanyu, this has been another race where even though there's been multiple people who have not finished the race, he still finishes dead last of the bunch. And I like Zhou. It's rough. It's rough to see. It's rough to see. And I'm just like, is it the car? Is it the driver? Is it both the car and the driver? It's just, at this point, I don't know what to say. At least he finished the race. There is that. At least he finished the race. Even in that Sauber. I almost said even in that Alpine. But we have a good story for our Alpine boys today. Then you have Fernando Alonso. I was not happy to hear him speak on the radio about how much pain he was in. Y'all know me, I got beef with Alonso for life. But the last thing I want to hear is a driver physically in pain, and you can hear it. You can hear it as they're speaking on the radio. And he was like, I'm going to finish this race, although my back hurts from all this bouncing. Yeah, that was... Shout out to him. He finished the race for the mechanics who worked hard overnight to fix the car after he crashed out in qualifying. Not overnight, you see? Who fixed the car after he crashed out in qualifying. And it's reminiscent of Hamilton in 2022. It is. And your driver should not be in physical pain like that, in my opinion. Y'all know how Fernando is. If he starts hating a car, ooh, it ain't looking good for Aston Martin. Like I said, new me or no new me, I feel like they need a fresh start completely, but that is just my piece. Then we go on to Valtteri finishing P13. I really want Valtteri in the points before this season ends. He deserves it. He has been hauling that Sauber. Like there's no tomorrow, and he deserves to get the first points for that team. We got 3 more races left. With the way today panned out, anything can happen, and I am rooting for Valtteri. Let's go on to Ollie Behrman. I like Mr. Behrman. He admittedly so also said that he's made a lot of mistakes this race. Again, a wet race. He was a replacement for K-Mag, who really won this race, to be fair. He was sick, and Ollie had to come in and replace him. Ollie Behrman is the most useful reserve driver in the history of reserve drivers. Let's be so for real. That man has had the best luck. Even though he's not going to be in the rookie testing at the end of the season, he's raced in every condition, it feels like, at this point, which gives him the experience that a lot of these new drivers coming in next year will not have. But more importantly, he has just been a sensational reserve driver, and it's brilliant to see. That penalty they gave him, and they gave him 2 penalty points. So they gave him a 10-second penalty for that crash with for that contact with Franco Colapinto, which, controversial. And then they also gave him 2 penalty points. I need the FIA to be so for real. I do agree with Ollie. He damaged his race more than he damaged Franco's race with that contact. Let's be so for real. I mean, of course, Franco ended up crashing out, but that was completely different. Had nothing to do with him and Ollie's contact. I just think that's absolutely ludicrous, but hey, I'm not a steward. I'm not. I'm just a girl who reviews races. Then we have Perez. Not a fun weekend for Sergio Perez. Not a fun triple header for Sergio Perez. Let's be so for real. He finished outside of the points, finishing P11, although he was battling Lewis and Liam Lawson at one point. He did finish right outside of the points, which sucks, especially when your teammate finishes the race P1, which we will get into. But, man. There's no love lost between Perez and Lawson, is there, eh? There is no love lost between those two. I don't even know what to say about Sergio Perez at this point. He's another one that I try and you can do it, but sometimes it's hard. It gets harder and harder, and he has 3 more races left, and he has a lot to prove. The conversation going around, is he staying? Is he going? Nobody knows. It seems to be like he's not staying from the conversation points that are going around, especially with the rumors about Colapinto now to Red Bull. Sonoda, we don't know what's going on with that. I mean, Red Bull and Sonoda, I'm so mad at them. I don't even want to speak about it. Lawson, allegedly also, there's just a lot of mess. For a driver who should be secured and feel secure, for a driver who's had Perez's career in Formula 1, who's been racing in Formula 1 for so long, he should be in a place where he feels, of course there's no security in Formula 1, but he should be in a place where he should be feeling like, okay, I signed my contract, I'm secure. I mean, we know how Red Bull works, but it's just insane. It's just insane. And then, I don't know. Lewis Hamilton, I love you. Mercedes, our relationship is over. I mean, to be fair, my relationship with Mercedes has been over since February of 2024, since it was announced that Hamilton was going to Scuderia Ferrari. But it has just been absolutely treacherous to watch. It's been really sad. And if you watch my videos, I talk about this a lot, about how I say I don't want to talk about Hamilton and Mercedes ending their relationship, but that car is just undrivable. It's actually dangerous and a hazard at this point. It is. It is. He's had a terrible triple header. I don't even know what's going on anymore. And the thing is, you cannot tell me bold-faced that he's, as they like to say, washed, because we saw him drive Ayrton Senna's car today. Ayrton Senna's 1990 McLaren today. At some point with no hands, while the track was still wet. Fine, great. Sure, he wasn't racing and he wasn't going maybe top speeds, but there's no way you can tell me that he's lost it. He hasn't. Also, he's won 2 races this season. You cannot tell me with a straight face that he lost it. And look at that Mercedes. You watch his onboard, he's struggling. Watch that car. He's going one way, it's going another way. There's no shame, and in my opinion, I think Mercedes has every right to lean towards George Russell. He is their future. I do. I just don't understand the need to constantly, I don't want to say gaslight. Why not just say it? I guess that's my question. It's I would respect Mercedes more if they just said it. I would. We know that he's whatever's going on with Hamilton and his car, they're gearing towards 2025. They're testing that car for 2025. I don't know what they're testing. Anyway, all I have to say is I would respect Mercedes Petronas and Mercedes, I can't even say their name. I would respect Mercedes AMG Petronas F1 team more if they just blatantly said, yes, we are using Lewis and his car to figure out what we want to do towards 2025. And in respect to that, George has the better setup every weekend. I'll be like, cool, I get it. He's leaving for your rival. You don't want to give him the best setup. It also does suck though, because Business is business. They can say whatever they want to say about Red Bull, but Mercedes is also doing the same thing, and even worse, in my humble opinion. Business is business, but this guy has, you guys and Hamilton as a team duo have won so many championships and have had so many wonderful memories, and to end off, not me getting emotional, but to end off a relationship in the way that it's ending off with Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton, it's really sad. It is. It actually makes me really upset because there was a point when there was 10 races left. I wanted to do a video series of Mercedes and Hamilton and their 10 best races together. And then like I was just like, does Mercedes even deserve this? The way things are going. And that, again, it's just in your face. And when something's, oh, it's so frustrating. And sometimes I'm like, I can't even speak. I don't even have the right words. But anyway, I would love for the last 3 races to go swell, to go wonderful, and for it to just end in a great way. You know? Then we have Liam Lawson finishing, I can never say his name. I would say Lawson. Then we have Liam Lawson finishing P9. Like I said, there's definitely no love lost between Lawson and Perez because it was in that battle where Lewis Hamilton was able to get through and get that 10th and final position ahead of Perez. Also had a pretty interesting race today. There was a point where he was P5, and I thought, oh, Tsunoda P3. Tsunoda first time podium. I was like, this is Yuki's race to win, actually. RB not so bad today. I think after that pit stop, that's when they went back down, but they double points for RB. For those 2 drivers, and for Lawson, I'll give him credit where credit is due. For being a rookie, he's not a rookie anymore, let's be honest, but for racing in the conditions that he was racing and to finish in the points without actually crashing out, good for him. I'll give him that. Now we go on to, oh yeah, oh my gosh, I forgot. Lawson and Piastri at the start of the race were also racing against each other. And I love when Oscar Piastri races against his age mates, races against his old rivals, should I say. Now that we have let's be real, we have a whole new grid basically come next year. We have a new racing generation up ahead of us, and it's cool to see them race against each other and also of course race against their rivals. It was nice to see Franco and Lewis race against each other, the 2 home favorites. Then Franco got that position ahead of Lewis. Loved that. Also hated that because I never want him to get a position ahead of Lewis, but it's just the way it works. If it's going to be anyone, I guess it's Franco. I mean, Franco didn't finish in the point, he didn't finish the race, but it was nice to see. And Oscar and Liam Lawson, did they have contact? I feel like they had contact and they were noted. And Oscar was noted for contact with Liam Lawson, if I'm correct. Could be wrong. But yeah, no, they did, because then he had that penalty, and that's what brought Oscar Piastri down to P8. Whoa. I don't even know how I remember that. That means Yuki Tsunoda then finished P7. I wanted Yuki on a podium today. I was like, this is your day, Yuki. He deserves it. He has been working his butt off at the junior team, and honestly, give credit where credit is due. I do not care about what people's thoughts are about Yuki. I don't even think they can use the immature argument in my book, because there's been quite a couple of drivers who have crashed out, head loss, as y'all like to say, as well. Yuki's not the only one, but y'all love to use him as your excuse. Goodness knows why. But nothing made me happier today than seeing Yuki almost on a podium, even if it was just for the first half of the race, because we had first quarter of the race, first third of the race, I don't know, man. There was legit a beginning, middle, and an end of this race, and each section, each third was completely different, and I didn't know what was gonna happen. I did not know what's gonna happen, and I'm still recovering from the race. Then now we're getting into the fun stuff. Now we're getting into what's making me want to make this video, because we have a Lando Norris P6. Where do I even begin? Where do I even begin? First and foremost, Lando Norris got pole position. What happened turn 1? Lap 1, turn 1? George Russell got ahead of him. I don't even think there was a championship battle between Lando and Max. I'm not going to lie, I never thought there was If you find another video where I said that, I lied, because I never thought there was a battle between. I never had faith. Unless Max DNFs in Vegas, DNFs in Qatar, DNFs in Abu Dhabi, there was never a title battle, in my humble opinion. this was Lando's race. Rain or sunshine, he should have won today. Because it's easy, right? All you have to do is have the fastest car. No, sorry. That's me being shady and petty because he's been shady and petty for a very long time. And I just felt like I need to bring that energy back. When I knew Max was going to win this race was not even this weekend. It was last weekend when Max had his 20-second penalty, when Max almost took Lando out, when all of that happened, and then Lando finished the race and he had the nicest, most largest smirk on his face. And I will give Lando credit where credit is due because he could have fought back and Max could have taken them both out, which, let's be for real, that was Max's plan. Max is like, if I'm not going to win this race, Lando's not going to win this race. But I knew when I saw that smirk, I was like, ooh, buddy, it's not looking good, bruv. Because Max is the kind of person where he thinks everyone is out to get him. It's Max against the world. And with that mentality, there was no way he was coming into this weekend and he was not going to fight back. He already had all odds against him. Like, he was already starting on the back foot, let's be so for real. There was not a scenario where I thought that Max wasn't going to, if not win, get right behind Lando. So with that in mind, Lando, you had literally every opportunity to win this race. And yes, of course, there was the badly timed pit stop, which that's Formula One though. They pit, the safety car came out, and then the red flag came out. And that put George and Lando on the back foot, and that elevated Ocon, Verstappen, and Gasly up ahead because they stayed out. And in result, put Lando now from being the hunted to the hunter. So I can agree with that. But then he went off and I was just like, you actually cannot afford to make these mistakes. You cannot. Not when you're in a championship title battle. In every single race where Lando has won, Max has found his way in the points. And who was it? Was it James Hinchcliffe or Will Buxton? They said at that point, Lando needs to get 12 points ahead of Max each race to beat him. And he's only done that once this season. Once. Lando has never got 12 points up on Max this season except for one time, and he needed that consistently towards the end of the season to even have a chance at beating him, and Max completely showed him today who's boss, unfortunately. And that's not even me praising Max because, yes, it was his driving skill, but it was also just the luck of the safety car and the red flag. It was both. I don't want to get too far ahead on the Max conversation because I want to talk about Max and I talked about Max. And as much as I would love to see a new WDC, I think it is great when Formula One gets a new champion. I think it brings excitement when you go on to, it brings excitement to the sport. It brings excitement leading into the new season because you already have a storyline to talk about. I just don't know if Lando will get that. This opportunity was a once-in-a-lifetime perfect opportunity for him, and I don't know. And I also do think he's tapped out of it a while ago. I think his mentality has been, I don't care, I don't want to talk about it, which is fair because why bring undue pressure onto you when you already have a whole bunch of other pressure onto you? But you won the sprint yesterday after you swapped positions with your teammate who rightfully should have won the sprint. And then in that, you come into today, you have pole position, you have the perfect opportunity to win a race and dunk on Max, who was starting P17, fumbled that unfortunately, and also you saw positions with your teammate, which was pretty useless. At this point, I know Oscar feels vindicated low-key because of all the conversation that's been going around about him, about how he's a terrible second driver. I'm like, I don't think Oscar signed up to be a second driver. There came a point where he had to be the second driver for his teammate, but with the way things are going right now, it's just given it's not looking good, bruv. To be fair, Lando did say he was unhappy with the car at some point during the race. He wasn't able to overtake. Anyway, don't know what it is, but that is the story of Lando Norris in 2020. All right, moving on. I don't even know what to say because I feel like Charles it was such an interesting little race for him. I feel like he was absolutely nowhere. Like, he was not on my radar until him and Max had their little battle, and then of course Max overtook him. But aside from that, Charles was just kind of just there today, and yet he still finished in the top 5. He was fighting for Ferrari's life because after Carlos crashed out, it was just Charles, and he finished in the points. Then we go on to George Russell. do we know what's going on with Mercedes? Let me check 1 minute. Okay, so Mercedes was fined 5,000 for adjusting tire pressures with wheels already fitted to the cars, and it should be a total of 10,000 euros in total for both cars. So they were not disqualified, they were fined. Cool, cool, cool. Still no decisions on the aborted start infringement from Norris, Russell, Sonoda, and Lawson. So we will see what happens with that. That's all I gotta say on that. All right, I don't really have much else to say on George Russell, except for the fact that he did his thing. What did he lead? Like 22 laps, and he took over in turn one ahead of Lando Norris. I knew he wasn't gonna win the race. It wasn't George's race to win. He did exactly what he needed to do. It just wasn't his race to win. Him and Lando both, rightfully so, were frustrated with when they pit, but how did George get ahead? Oh, because Lando, I was like, wait a second. Because I was like, I remember Lando ended up passing George. Then how the heck did George get ahead of Lando? But then Lando went off track. And that's how he fumbled. And George was P4. And Charles was P5. And Lando subsequently was actually P7. But then him and Oscar were told to swap positions. So that put Oscar P7, Lando P6, and then of course Oscar had his penalty anyway, so there's a story of that. But yeah, George just carried on tradition. Lando gets pulled, we know what happens next. Moving on to Alpine. I need to do a compilation of all my videos where I'm like, Alpine, because in pretty much every race weekend recap and pretty much every Unserious Series video I've done, I've always just been like, Alpine, I have nothing to say to you. And lo and behold, today, not only did they jump to 6th in the constructors, they got a double podium with 2 Frenchmen, which has not happened since decades ago. I can't remember what year. I want to say like 19. I can't remember. And I'm not going to just make up a random number. But Pierre Gasly P3 and my SD Bestie P2. I wanted an SD Bestie win. Y'all know I don't play about Esteban Ocon. I really don't. Unless he does something to make me mad. Don't do it, SG. I do not play about Esteban Ocon. So I was so happy when he was leading. I was like, yo, ain't no way Esteban Ocon is going to win this race. There's no freaking way. And then, of course, Max was on a hunt and did overtake him. But the fact that Alpine, after, I mean, you heard it in Pierre's post-race interview, he was sounding pretty emotional. He's like, people have said so much about this team, about our car, about this, so this means a lot. And I mean, to be fair, the car did absolutely suck when the season first started. Up until like after the break we had before the triple header, maybe right before, that car was literally, that car and the kick Saubers were like this. So the fact that from where they started at the start of the season to them having a double podium at the end of the season and jumping 6th in the constructors, yeah, I'll give it to Alpine. I will give them their 10s where the 10s is due. There's something about the wet weather that brought them both alive today, and they did that. They did that. I'm so happy with Esteban Ocon's podium, his P2. Makes me happy. Makes me happy. We love SD Bestie over here. Because I just feel like y'all hate on him a little too much. I do. There is something... I feel like y'all hate on Esteban Ocon a little too much. I get it. He's an angry little bunny sometimes. But it just feels like there's sometimes it's a little bit too much. Because in the same instant where people are like, oh my god, we love Kevin Magnussen, he's so crazy, yeah. Esteban goes and all of a sudden, how dare he? Anyway, that's a different story for a different day. That is. But shout out to those boys, shout out to Alpine. And then we have Max Verstappen. I'm so sad. Wame's curse. 10 races is a generational run. She said this is your last win. And for 10 races straight, he did not win. But today, Max Verstappen won the Brazilian Grand Prix, and wow, what a win it was. He needed this win. Lando Norris was slowly chipping away at his title chances. Slowly but surely. I don't think he was ever going to fully make it, but it brought a little bit of to Max. He was like, oh boy. This is a season that I think he deserves, Max Verstappen, especially after whatever the heck was 2023. We know that Red Bull, I don't know if this makes sense because I feel like every car is built for the clean air, but I feel like that Red Bull is specifically built for clean air because he was doing fastest lap after fastest lap after fastest lap after fastest lap after fastest lap for what? Like 17 times? Did I just make that number up? Could have been 11 to 17 times, I don't remember. But he was doing the fastest lap. He was getting the fastest lap. Once he goes in clean air, it was absolutely diabolical. And I don't know the science behind it, but I just feel like that Red Bull, is specifically built for clean and clean air only. And that's why he was able to dunk on everyone once he got ahead of Ocon. I feel like I said everything I need to say about Max when I was speaking about Lando. I think there is luck. And I also think he has something to prove today. He has something to prove today. And he proved what he needed to prove to whoever he feels that he needed to prove it to. And he did I remember at one point I was like, this run that Max is on, I couldn't even believe it. I was like, whoa, buddy. It's just been a weekend, has it not? It has been a weekend. I've been up since goodness knows when, and my highlight of the weekend, of course, was Lewis Hamilton driving Senna's car. It was, yeah, how magical. How magical. And it just feels so surreal when you see like a modern day driver driving in a car, like, just, first of all, the sound of that engine is just chef's kiss. It really just, it soothes something in the brain a little, doesn't it? And as we know, Senna is Hamilton and has always been Hamilton's idol. He's always said that. Anyone who knows F1, anyone who knows anything about Lewis Hamilton knows that Senna is his idol, and it's the reason he got into racing. So for him to get that opportunity to drive Ayrton Senna's car, it was just so wonderful to see and so emotional. I think honestly it was emotional for everyone who was watching, Hamilton men or not, just because we don't get these opportunities that often, right? I said this previously. We don't get these opportunities that often. So to see a driver drive in such a historic, legendary car from such a historic and legendary driver themselves, yeah. And then I was watching it and I was like, wow, one day there's gonna be a driver out there who's gonna be driving a Hamilton car, and it's gonna evoke the same emotions that Hamilton has evoked from us driving Senna, from him driving Senna's car, and that's gonna be so incredible to see. And I will be there. So yeah, we've had a race weekend. I feel like my video started off like, whoop, and then it went up, and then it went back down. That's all I have to say for now. Thank you all so much for sitting here and watching this video. If you like this video, please feel free to give it a like and subscribe. I am on the road to 500, and hopefully I will get there soon with all of your support. It's been so wonderful recording these videos. I've had such a wonderful time. And like I said, if you like this video, thank you so much. And I will see you all in the next one. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.